So guys, welcome to From Stage Actor to Voice Actor. I formulated this panel because I get a lot of questions based on my background. When you see us voice actors, and there's 8, 10, 12 of us up on here, people ask how we got started, and almost all of us began with theater. That is where you need to have that solid background and be grounded, all right? It struck me later on, though, what a big difference it was when I stepped to, in those days, a podium or a music stand and a microphone. And that's where you are. You are now on stage. You don't get to do those wonderful things. I talked a little bit about it yesterday, how if you're doing a scene with someone and you're on camera or on stage, you get to refer to a person. And sometimes you get to look at them, and sometimes you get to even walk up and touch them. You know, oh, wow, you know, shake hands and kiss and hug, or you know, get in, you know, fighting and, you know, all this stuff. In front of the microphone, you do this. That's from yesterday. That's the screw, and that's the 2 plastic things, right? So you find your place, and you stay there. And once you get your place, they walk in. The engineer comes in, and he starts angling things and putting stuff. Is the stand okay? We're going to be giving you on a screen, you'll be doing this and that to get your lines, or back and forth, and changing menus. But once you get there, this is it. So here I was, a guy that had done opera and Shakespeare and all these other things, and I was used to moving. There's an old saying in theater, suit the action to the word. All right? So that's me. I would suit the action to the word. I would do something, one of us, one of us, one of us. Thank you. He actually just came in here to read. That's okay. So I would, when I was doing Nevada Shakespeare Festival, we would be outdoors in a park, and there would be as many as 6,000 people out there. An ocean of faces, right, in live theater. When you have people that are sitting way in the back and 2 people are on screen, I should say on stage, I get mixed up, talking to each other, you can't tell which one's talking to the other. They're too far away. So when you would begin your line, you would say, I will not do that sort of thing, because the guys in the back saw the motion, and the person that moved was the one talking. Thank you, come in, please. Come in, please. 2 of us, 2 of us, 2 of us. Or as Zemnis, 2 of us, 2 of us. Thank you. Thanks for being here, guys. Especially you. So I was so accustomed to being the stage actor, or even to a lesser degree on camera, where they tend to have the camera on you. You don't necessarily have to do that to tell everybody that you're speaking. But often they will want to have some kind of motion again. Suit the action to the word. Speak the speech, I pray you, and suit the action to the word. So, one of us, come in, please. So, when you grow up doing that, and from a fairly young age I was doing that all the way back to 19, what? I don't want to admit it either, you know. And suddenly they say, all right, you're going to be here. I say, all right, so I go ahead and I find my place. One studio that I work in called Bang Zoom, for the longest time they had one recording room, and they had an old carpet and a place where somebody had dropped a piece of gum or something. And that, I just picked that as my spot, you know. It had been trod upon probably 50 million times. I said, oh, there's my spot. I can always line up. And my level was always perfect, you know. They set me up. They said, all right, here you are, and you can't move your face, you can't move your hands, you can't do anything, okay? Here's the biggest change that I do in terms of the visual. Come in. You can come sit down. We paid for these chairs. We have to use them. We have to rebate the hotel. You didn't sit on all the chairs. Give us our money back. You know, so, dang. You know. I use this visual to let everybody know exactly what's involved, because when you go from a stage which might be gigantic, okay, and a very deep stage, like when I was with the Civic Light Opera in San Diego and the San Diego Opera Company, which was indoors, you have a proscenium going all the way down, and there's an orchestra pit, and you can walk for about 10 seconds before you get to the back. I mean, it's this huge space, and it's set for grand opera. We would have elephants on stage and crap like that. Civic Light Opera, we had a full stagecoach come out with 4 horses, you know. It was that kind of big stuff, right? I try to explain what happens when you're used to doing that. I did Paint Your Wagon, and we had the stagecoach come in and the horses and all that stuff, and the girl dancers came out, and we were going, there's a coach coming in, if you listen you can hear it a clip clopping over the hill, and there's all this stuff and all that. And then, when you go to voiceover, your stage is this big. That's all you get to work with. Sometimes it's smaller. They'll use a shotgun mic, something mounted up really high, but it's set up in such a way that you have this much, okay? So when you find that spot with the piece of gum on the floor, or whatever it was, you know, or the rip in the carpet, or sometimes it's just a bare floor that's been carpeted, and I line my foot up based on where the music stand is. My right foot goes by the tripod here thing, right? So I'm on this side, and I go right back to that again. Because once that engineer sets you up and puts your popper stopper in front of you, anybody know what a popper stopper is, or don't know? The popper stopper, that's what it's for? Yeah, and they put that in front of you so you don't pop your peas, like I'm doing now with this microphone. It has a little foamy thing on it, that's what it's for. I have to do that every time she shows up. Loving the armor, by the way. Gorgeous, yeah. So they set you up, and you are responsible for that. As a professional, you are responsible for being able to give them the same level each time. It's their responsibility to set your levels and set your equipment. You don't have to, like, when I teach here and I hand people microphones and I say, all right, you know, hold the microphone like this, kiss the mic, etc. By the way, I will need one microphone wired, if I could. Yeah, a little bit later, but I will need one. Thank you. Didn't mention that before because I didn't know I would have this really cool thing, you know. Hi, I'm going to talk to you about making $1 million with three cans of peanut butter. Okay. There are people that do stuff like that. Yeah, I'll pay $100 to see that seminar, you know. So, okay, cool. Once you get into that situation, you can feel very constricted. Like, what do you mean I can't, when I'm doing combat, I can't do this? You know, no. That all has to be done with the voice. You guys probably all played games at some point, right? Hack and slash, shooters, and all stuff like that. You probably all played them, okay? Most of what I do are turn-based games. I don't do a whole lot of the smashing and all that stuff, but I do things that are, you know, I direct people to go over here and blow stuff up and whatever, so I do games like that. But almost all of that stuff is recorded there in the studio, and we don't get to, you know, ha! And all that. There's nothing like that because the level does this. The guy in the booth is going like, oh my God. So you need to get up and it's all done with your voice. Not only that, you need to vary it. You have to have the kind of vocal control when they say, all right, next we're going to have some reactions to pain. Okay, give us a minor pain, then give us a medium pain, then give us a big pain. How do you do that? Anybody want to? Yeah. Difficult, isn't it? Yes? Yeah, there's the physical way of doing it, right? Actually, I do help myself physically a little bit. Whenever I need to have some kind of contact, I always press on my rib cage. I did Henry IV Part 2 for Nevada Shakespeare Festival, and after I'd been killed by the Douglas in the battle, I played Sir Walter Blunt, the dead Sir Walter Blunt. One character walks by and says, Sir Walter Blunt, a brave knight. He was. You know. That was his reading. Two of us. Welcome, guys. Alex and Sarah, ladies and gentlemen. Very two of us. So I was lying on the stage dead, and normally he was supposed to come over and kick me, and he usually kicked me right here. On closing night, I did not fall face away from the combat. I was like this. Now, if a blade breaks, which happens, it's live theater and these are real broadswords we used, okay? If a blade breaks, you might get hit in the face or something. So whenever you die, you always do like that. On closing night, I didn't. I was straight up. So the Douglas thought he'd come over and kick me over, like that. So what did he do? He comes up and puts the heel of his boot right in my rib cage. And the poor dead body of Sir Walter Blunt went, ugh! And it was that loud because there was, luckily, unluckily, a microphone right above me. Everybody got up to do curtain calls. I was like this. I went, and everybody went bounding off stage like we normally do. And I was like... And one of the actresses in the show said, are you all right? I said, could you get the director, please? So instead of going out and partying on closing night, I got to stay overnight in a hospital, you know. Turned out to be a contusion, nothing was broken. But that is a great place for me when I want to connect physically with a bit of pain. I'll go ahead and press there. There's just this muscle and rib memory, shall we say, you know. So when you're doing something like that and they say, all right, we need to have different degrees of pain or different degrees of reaction or effort, you know. A lot of those things that you guys hear when somebody jumps, like that, we're in the studio and they're giving us degrees of that. And it's weird because if you're used to acting and you're using lines of dialogue, for instance, you guys watch any of the shows I do, like Bebop or Naruto and stuff like that. Those are actual dialogue scenes. You know, one of my favorite was last year. I got to, you know, if you know Naruto, we went from Naruto being little and a little snot, you know, and he was always going up to the cage, and I was looking down, going. And he'd sweat, and you know, the Japanese bead of sweat up here, you know, and he'd turn around. And I represented temptation, okay? Now that I'm free and he and I battle together, we've become like an old married couple, you know? And we get to have these wonderful lines of dialogue. And at one point, this episode, we were just snapping back and forth. It wouldn't shut up. And I finally turned and said, "Knock it off, you little bastard." See, these are dialogue scenes you get to act. On the other hand, when you do a game, you were going in and you were repeating a whole bunch of things like the efforts and whatever. In this particular case, when I say different amounts of pain or whatever, you will have people that are in the booth, your director and sometimes somebody from the client, and they might want something different from what you thought. Okay, I'll just demonstrate for me. If I was going to do a minor pain, medium pain, big pain, like that. And they might say, okay, yeah, those are good, but take 20% off of each of those, okay? So you have to be really open to that sort of thing. And some of them give you weird directions. They don't give you something specific. One of my favorite is from a book called Audition by Michael Shurtleff. Every actor should read it. It's a dynamite book about auditions and all these other things. But he said he has nothing good to say about directors. And he actually says in his book, he says, to all of you directors, if you think I sound harsh to you, I mean to be. You're the most egotistical, rotten, stupid, and he just goes this whole list of rotten things to say to them. He said, I went into a theater one time, and the actors had been up there, and they'd just done their scene, and the director got down close to the stage with them. And it would be like if we were up here, and he would walk up here to the proscenium, and we'd sit down, and he said, well, you guys, you were giving me October tones, and I wanted November tones. How do you act that? You know? Okay, October. I get a sense of it's cooler and it's brown. Wait, November? Oh, I'm sorry. The leaves are falling. My performance has to have leaves in it. Come on, you know? Now, if you say to me, like if I was working with you, I'd say, you know, I need more anger. I need more. Give me more. Can you do that? Yeah. Anger is what I call an actable, okay? Sad is an actable. Happy is an actable. Give me something I can act. Don't give me a concept, you know? Yeah, I wanted to get kind of a, you know, the water flowing in with the tide. I don't want it, the way you did it was like the tide was flowing back. You can't do that, you know? Give an actor something to work with, right? And that's just it. You run into that some here, and we'll do this a little bit later, Q&A. So when you're given stuff like that, you do have to kind of make sense of it, and occasionally you will have that in voiceover. Somebody who's never directed anything will be sent by the client. They don't know anything about directing. They are working with a director who knows what he or she is doing, and an actor who knows what he or she are doing, and they walk in and they sit there and they get all conceptual on you. You know, I say leave them at home, but if there has to be a representative from the client, tell them to shut up. You know, when I was doing the Digimon movie as Kokomon, a guy came in from Fox Kids, and he was one of the big execs. He brought his wife. Okay, they were both dressed to the nines. They looked terrific. They came into the booth, and we were at Saban Studios at that time on Wilshire Boulevard, right? And I'm in there. And that was one of those jobs where they said, we need you to do that voice, okay? that voice is the one that everybody calls me for. It's that Kurama voice. When I do that, when I bring in the demon and all that stuff, right? So they're watching. Now, I could see just kind of right off the edge here, my peripheral vision at sort of a diagonal, I could see where the guy's wife was sitting. And she sat the whole session like this. And I'm not exaggerating. She was looking at me going, I would get up and I would say, go back. And she's going. Then she put her shawl over like that, and then she actually at one point got up and left. She was so spooked, you know. And then her husband was sitting there and he was going, what are you guys doing to do his voice like that? How are you making that happen? And they said, no, that's all Paul. We're not doing anything. We're just recording him. And he went. He wasn't quite that bad, but I just to this day remember his wife's face. Because again, I'm not exaggerating. She sat there horrified that I was making this sound, cue after cue after cue, you know. How did I get off on that little bit there? Well, yeah, with the, like I say, the demands that are made upon you. Okay, so you need to be able to do the reactions, the pain, the joy, the happy, the when they say, do something really sarcastic, okay, a medium sarcastic, small sarcastic, and big sarcastic. So they give you all this stuff. You must get up and do it again, all right here. So the vocal command you need to have at all times is extreme. It's why I tell people my union has 160,000 members in it, and the number of us that do this effectively is in the low hundreds. Those who think it's easy, I just say, give it a shot. After the director is done shredding you for being an amateur, now if they know you're going up for the first time, they try to be kind to you. But I've worked with directors that have no mercy. You know what? You brought yourself into the lion's den. You better be a big, badass lion, you know. Don't walk in as a little lamb and expect you to be nice to me and teach me voiceover. Not at the kind of money they're paying for the studio, for the director, for the engineer, for the rights, for the scriptwriter, for me. No, no. This is tough stuff. It's not an easy business to get into. It's not necessarily a kind business. We're all good friends. We all work with each other well. But my God, you bring somebody in who's wasting your time, all of us get very irritated. You know, and I'm an extremely patient person, incredibly patient person. If I go into a session and there's somebody there that doesn't know what they're doing for whatever reason, if I know I'm supposed to be nice to them and work with them, I said, yeah, okay, the time code is going to be at 12:57 and 9 frames. And the person's answer goes, where's that? I said, do you see the screen over here on the bottom? It says 12:57. That's where it's at, you know. You know, at some point, two of us, two of us, two of us. Thank you for coming. Please sit down. So you really do need to be a person who is able to just focus everything with the voice. Now, I do about 40 accents and dialects. I've taught at 5 different universities and schools like Los Angeles Broadcasting. I know my stuff. So when I went in to start doing anime and games and things like that, I brought a lot, okay? They call me also not just for that voice, but they call me in for the accents, for the dialects, for the different things. This is my voice. Most of you have never heard it before. I never get to use it. Well, I was just over there in my autograph table with all my characters. Somebody said, Kurama, Wormmon? No, 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 can't be, can't be. Yeah. Most of us have the nice range of voices we do, and they don't sound like me. Again, I almost never get to use my own voice. I did one recently, and I went like, wow, I got to sound like me, you know. I don't need to sound like Russian or something like that, you know. Playing around, that's for you, Sarah. So when they call upon you, you better bring that stuff. Now, with that in mind, with stage actor, when I tell you about my background, the training that I've had and all that, that is all a very, very good bedrock. So you feel very solid as an actor. You must be an actor. My nephew, who grew up listening to all my stuff, my sister buys all the stuff that I do. They make sure that the kids have grown up hearing Uncle Paul's voice, but not my voice, all the characters I do. He came to me one time, he said, Uncle Paul, I want to be a voice actor. I said, okay, you need to become an actor. Whether you can do voice is another story. I'm not exaggerating when I say 160,000 SAG-AFTRA members, and there's only a few hundred of us that can actually do this effectively, okay? I said, become an actor, become grounded in your craft. When I go in, and they want me to be a cockney sort of a guy, okay, I've got to do that all the time. I can't mess around with it. It's got to sound authentic all the time. So it needs to be secondhand, or as I say, you need to have it right here in your pocket each time. Because they will ask you, here's a different character, he needs to be blah, 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 blah. And they put it on the screen, and that's it, you're on the spot. You need to bring that stuff to you. It's got to be in your pocket. It has to be right there for you every time. It's extremely demanding. Now, they don't normally just spring something on you. But I had done an episode, or I say a bunch of episodes of Digimon, and I was done with whoever I was doing that day, and they said, okay, we have another character, let's see about it. They brought it up on the screen, and they said, okay, there he is, come up with a voice. No preparation, no warning, no nothing. They didn't tell me when they were telling me to come in for the session, oh, by the way, there will be a new character, here's a picture of him. They just put him up there, okay? You've got to be able to come up with the voices. I go more into that when I do the voice maker panel, but just briefly what I did in that particular case was look at his face and look at the lines of dialogue, and an idea came to me, okay? Those will come to you. Anybody here done stage work, anything, done stuff? Yeah. And again, a lot of us sometimes have done a few things or whatever. When you are called upon to do a role or something like that, you really do need to bring that consistency or whatever. And again, they just spring stuff on you. So those of you who have done things or have thought about doing more of this, you have to be ready when they do that. But I want to tell you that because when you are given a challenge of some kind, usually the first thought that comes to your mind is the one you should do. Your instincts will rescue you. I tell all actors, do improv. Learn to trust yourself. It's hard to do. You want to do it right? I'd go to do an improv, and an idea would come to me, and I thought, no, that probably wouldn't work. Okay, and these two are doing that. I get an idea. No, because what happens if it doesn't work? Okay, what you do is you just jump in. Just jump in. It may work, it may not. As one guy said, you have to learn how to not care. Because sometimes you get up and you suck, you know. That's just the way it is. But that's improv. But you learn to trust your instincts. First thought that came to me when I saw that character was, he's snide, has his beady little eyes, and he got all these teeth and this long kind of a beak thing, all right? And his lines were all, were snotty. He was mean and rotten, okay? His first line was, I hope you're going to give me a good tip, otherwise you'll get hair in your wonton. So all the kids in the show had gone into, you know, whatever kind of a restaurant it was that serves wonton in this particular case. But they said, okay, his name is Kiwimon. And I saw the beak, the teeth, the beady eyes, and the crappy thing, the crappy dialogue for a snotty kid talking to a bunch of little kids. And I came up with the voice right away, and I said, I hope you're going to give me a good tip. Otherwise, you'll get hair in your wonton. You know? That was Kiwimon. It was the first thing that occurred to me, and it turned out to be the best choice. They loved it, okay? And whatever choice you make that they like was the right one. Okay. By a little bit of the business thing that I talked about yesterday, whenever they want something, they're right. Everybody get that? What do you do when they ask you? Always nod yes, always do it. Why? The one that signs the check is the one that's right. Yeah, okay? Always remember that. If they're paying you to do something, and in my particular case, I'm brought in there because of all the different things I can do. They know I can do, I bring a million things to a session, and boy, do they test me sometimes, you know. But that's why they brought me in. So you got to do that. The client says they want this and this. Okay, all right, I'm ready. Bring it on. Where's the picture? Yep, Kiwimon, I have an idea, you know. Now, this is one of my interactive panels. Yesterday was a lecture panel, I called it. It's the only one I do, where I just get up and talk about the business. Stop that, you two. Fine, just go away. Just when I needed you the most. Thought he'd never leave. Okay. Right. My favorite, instead of one of us, when people came in late, I used to say stuff like, where the hell have you been? You know. Or thank God you've arrived, you know. That's fine. Good. Okay. Let me point off stage left, and then if you make this live, I'll make sure not to get too close to it so we don't feedback. Now, this is normally stuff that's taken care of for you in the studio. Oh, thank you for coming back. Yeah. Did you bring enough for everybody? No. She goes, no, it's mine. No, it's fine. Yeah.
One for all, and then you all got to share and sit. Well, find the door.
Yeah, fine. Gee, this is getting complicated. I'll tell you. Brutal. I love it, man. Yeah. Or as we used to say, somebody would take a drink and something from his sister, and they'd go like, you, and they'd go, same family. Yeah, like you wouldn't get sick because you all have the same germs at home. Same family. And actually, there's a little bit of basis in that that's correct, you know. But I wouldn't chance it. You can get bad stuff from your own family members, etc. Leaving us. It's okay, he was wearing a blue shirt. It's all right. Maybe. Maybe not. I would like to have, let's see here. Two volunteers. This is difficult stuff, okay? Let me warn you right now. I did not bring easy stuff. See, the other things I do for my other panels, for instance, let's see. Some of you have heard this stuff before. I use this one in Voice Maker. The planet Bonmore has been invaded, her people enslaved, her riches plundered. Zuran Kai has returned to find his world in ruins, his love destroyed. The invaders have taken everything except his sword and his rage. Zuran, coming May 2018. Now that's easy compared to the things I have here. Because when I said stage actor, I'm not kidding. I brought a poem, which is verse poetry. Tough stuff, okay? And then I brought something from Julius Caesar. Now, if you bravely volunteer, I'm very happy, and believe me, you can't do this wrong. First of all, if you do it badly, you got up, and they didn't, okay? Not to scare anybody off, but like this piece I wrote myself in a pinch, because I left. This is 7 panels in here, right? Just this envelope, 7 panels. When you leave it in Los Angeles, it's worthless, isn't it? So I had a panel like in an hour and a half, and I'm looking at it, oh my God. So I scribbled on everything I could find, and this is the one time where I had a hotel room where they didn't give me a pen and paper. You know, you go in there, they always have a pad there, and you can do that, and you can do business and plug and all that stuff. I did not have anything. So I'm scribbling on anything I could with a stupid little pencil that I brought. And then I went to my handler and said, could you do all this stuff? And I actually came up with 3 pieces that I like a lot, you know, so I still use them. Leaving us. It's okay. People have other things to do, I get it. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 volunteers. Notice I didn't ask, I said I'm going to have 2 volunteers. I am Zemnis. You will do what I tell you. Don't tell anybody, but I recorded KH3 already. I did go in and do my sessions. No. This is, you get to do it you do it like a real audition where they say, here, and they call you in 5 or 10 minutes, yeah. No, that's Voice Maker and Voice Performer, where I give you the dialogue pieces, yeah. This is an interactive one, but you don't get that overnight thing, you know. If you volunteer, I'm going to hand this to you, and it's going to be just like the real deal, okay? Okay, not quite yet, but. Okay, so let's see. This would probably be better for a man to do this. Who would like to do the verse poetry by Alfred Edward Houseman? Sir, come on up. He's a brave fella, isn't he? Good on you, mate. When I did the one in Darwin in Australia, when I was teaching them, like I say, the con culture, they brought me in for an interview at Radio Darwin. And the person conducting the interview says, I understand that you're supposed to do an Australian dialect. Would you give us a little bit? See what I mean when they just throw it at you? And I'm in Australia. Just a little bit of pressure, don't you think? So I went ahead and described what I'd seen so far. And I've been in a tank, and I did this. I went in a tank with a 17-foot crocodile. They actually put me and my fellow actor, and we got in this tank with a mask and everything. We ducked under the water, and his name was Axel, no kidding.
Does that help you get the accent better?
Much, yeah. But once you've confronted a crocodile who was only 10 feet away, you're much better with a dialect, you know. Whatever gets me out. Whatever gets me out of here, you know. All right.
Okay, how much time I got?
Well, we'll talk about this first. Okay. Now, this is a British poem, so they rhyme differently. Okay. Alfred Edward Houseman. Okay. So here you're going to see again and vain. Okay. Do you know what rue means?
Yeah, to rue the day.
To rue the day.
To regret.
To regret, yeah. Most Americans don't use that word, rue. You don't even see ruefully anymore, you know?
I do it.
Yeah, in the old day. Yeah. Yeah. So endless rue. 2 and 20. So take your time with this, but keep in mind that it rhymes and it has a certain and it's
rhythm to it.
And it's actually a verse, so it's very strict. Don't just kind of throw the words away. They all mean something. Make your choices of which words are more important or less important, but they are all, as Laurence Olivier said, each word is a piece of polished crystal. Some are small, some are big. Okay, you have about 10 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Who would like to be, quiet please, who would like to be Brutus from Julius Caesar? Just come on up. Yep. Sarah, ladies and gentlemen. I had a great time when it was the first time that I did CoreCon in Virginia at Christopher Newport University. I asked for volunteers. That, you know, small con, very small number of people, and nobody raised their hands when I asked for volunteers. And I can't do this all myself. I need people to get up, right? So I said, okay, well, that's fine. I said, how many people like chocolate? The hands went up, and I grabbed them and said, thanks for volunteering. But another time when I did it, there was, for a different panel, this one girl got up there, and she was terrified, absolutely terrified. But when I said, go ahead, when she started reading this amazing performance, all this wonderful stuff came out. Then she put her thing down and went back and sat down like this. I said, what are you embarrassed about? That was fantastic, you know? So brave anyone going up. Okay. Okay, Sarah. Of course we'll seem to bloody Caius Cassius. Okay. Envy afterward, the limb of Caesar. Make sure you use the words sacrificers, butchers, okay, dismember. So give this the value it should have. Okay. And don't rush through it, but I mean, don't take, you know, super long time with it too, so give it a lot of different levels and all that. Okay? All right. Big hand for my actors. And you guys, if you want to go outside, you can do that, you know. I have to watch the time because I usually have an hour, but I've done cons where they said you have 50 minutes because the next people have to come in, so I don't get an hour. I have to rush through all this stuff. When I do my Pirates panel, which if you guys were here in 2016, yeah, it's hard to rush through that. There's a lot. I get 12 volunteers up and they do all this stuff, so it's complex. And I don't want to say, well, I'm losing 10 minutes. Oh, man. Yes. So while they're working, just so that I do have time to do this with you guys, a little Q&A if you have any questions before they come up. Sarah had one, so we'll have her ask later. Yes, yes, you have time? Yes?
You're well known for doing the darker, scarier voices.
Mm-hmm.
What's the higher pitched voice?
I don't really do a lot of higher pitched voices. I change the placement to make it sound like it's higher, okay? So whereas this is my normal voice and my normal pitch, and if I do Kiwi man, you know, hear that voice? Or if I do something like in the Digimon movie, after I'd done all of my Kokomon stuff, they had these little Digimon who were leaping. They kept leaping into camera and off and into camera and all. And so they said, well, let's just come up with a laugh. I thought, well, I'd do a cute little laugh, so I was going, And I thought that's a cute little laugh for a cute little, and the director said, that sounds evil. And probably, I get it, you know, so maybe there was a little troll going, we're going to tear your toenails out or something like that. So I thought, well, thanks, that was just my idea. So what I think might sound cuter, you know, but that's actually kind of, it's only up here. Can you hear this is where the pitch is, and if I decide to change the placement a little bit and make him throaty like that, it's not a higher pitched voice at all. This is my normal range, okay? All of us have a regular speaking voice. It's the most comfortable voice for us, all right? That's your normal range. When I'm doing this, people think I'm changing my pitch. But if you listen carefully to the way I normally speak and then you hear the way I do the voice right there, do you hear how I'm drifting back and forth on the same part of my range? Okay. In fact, and this is weird, I hadn't only thought about this really until last year, the deepest voice I do for any of my characters is for Wormmon. Digimon fans? Little tiny cute pathetic Wormmon? I know. Everybody loves Wormmon, you know. I just can't love myself. I don't know what the problem is. I don't want to bother anybody. But as I was working on it, and I went ahead and warmed it up later to keep it in practice if they ever bring me back, or the part back. They brought me back, but the part never came back. So as I was working on it, I realized when I do Wormmon, and I do the voice, and I bring it down here, actually that's about 2 or 3 pitches lower. So my cutest, tiniest little pathetic, you want to just hug him and kiss him before the Wormmon, has the deepest voice of any character I do. Even Yami Rialdo from Bleach, or Leomon. These are all basically in my range. Here I picked a little tiny Wormmon they have to carry around, and, you know, the deepest voice of all, you know. Now, just a little bit about the voice making, and when I talk about this in Voice Maker, you guys get a chance to listen to how I describe these things, and your ears get sharper. Every time you watch anime after you work with me in a panel, you start hearing different elements you didn't know about before, or you can identify them. So when I'm doing the voice of Wormmon, see if you can pick out the qualities and how I made these work. So when I'm being Wormmon, and I'm talking like this, and I don't want to bother anybody and mess things up, but what are you hearing me do? We already know about the pitch, okay. It's not a throaty voice. It's not a throaty voice. That's a throaty voice. Yeah. It's what? No, it's not up in the upper mask or anything like that. No, it's not that, no. You're probably thinking back as opposed to up. Back? Yes. It's actually what they call a darker placement. It's not the darkest voice I do. That's a dark voice, you know. That would be a dark placement, you know. Everybody do this, by the way. Put your lower jaw forward and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Yeah. All of you have just done a character voice. When you change the articulators, you actually are doing a character voice. It changes the sound of your voice. When you saw me do the dark voice there, what did I do? Yeah, that's a dark voice. This is called funneling your lips forward. See, many actors do the same things I do. They don't use the terms. They don't have the technical training that I do. And if they do it the same way I do, it doesn't matter, okay? For me, I can teach people, however. If they say, well, sound like this, you can't always sound like that. But if I say, do this, and move your jaw forward like that, that's 2 elements, okay? And in fact, when I'm doing Wormmon, I have a lower pitch. So I'm pitching my voice differently. It's back in the throat. It has a slower pace, slightly slower. That's in other scenes where I had to have the normal pace of dialogue, but it's a little bit slower. But here's the more sophisticated thing. What else am I doing? One of us, one of us, one of us. Thought you'd get in. We'll see you. So those 3. But when you're listening to Wormmon, what else are you hearing? There's another quality in there. That's right. It's called vibrato musically. but I call it, it's also tremolo in Italian, but it's a tremulous quality. A tremulous quality that makes my voice move like that. And why? Because Wormmon's afraid all the time. That's where that idea came from. He's always, I don't want anybody to be upset with me, Ken. You know. And so that became one of the elements of the voice. And yet again, it's the lowest pitch I have. But that's how you create voices. You layer things in like that. Some people have wonderful character voices, and it's hard for them to describe how they do them, even though they do it faithfully every time. That's one reason I have an advantage in a way, because of the technical things I do. I call myself a speech technician. So when I say, you know, lower thrust like this, something happens to your voice. Or if I say funnel your voices like this. Or if I say nasalize your voice like this. You see how I'm switching and switching and going? I can do that forever and ever. You know? So in some ways, the voices I do are infinite. You know? At some point, you start getting to the, you know, this sounds a little bit too much like that. And people notice that. Okay? Directors notice that. You fans notice that. Thank you all, by the way, for being so discerning, because when something gets changed on an animated series or a game and you don't like it, you say so. Thank you, all of you. Because we have producers who think they can just change anything to save money or whatever, and you guys have that armed insurrection that I love so much, you know. Teach them a lesson. If they change a character, or they fire somebody, or they just don't want it, and they think you won't care, you guys do care, and you do say so. Thank you. Well, and it's important, too, because I've seen where they have replaced actors just because they wanted to save money, you know. And, well, you get what you pay for.
Or in this case, not at all, but the whole fan base is not for them.
Yep, yep. They think you won't walk away. They think you'll buy anything and play anything. No, you won't. You know, I hear people that say, what happened to such and such and so and so? I said, I didn't hear the story, but he's no longer with the show. And people are going like, it wasn't as good. Yeah, exactly. There's a reason we got cast in the first place. I went through some very rigorous things for the Digimon stuff, you know. My audition for Wormmon, I thought I didn't get the role because they just took so long to tell me. But it turned out the people at Fox that take forever to mull over everything took like 5-6 weeks, and then I finally got word that I was cast. I went, oh, okay, God, I thought this was it. I thought I didn't have the role. Normally they tell you very quickly, but I thought that wasn't it. But they go through tons of stuff. My sessions for Kingdom Hearts, oh my heavens. Just before I have them come up, I'll tell this little story. I got in there and they said, okay, well, here's how we work. You do one cue and then we'll talk about it for 10 minutes. And I thought they were kind of exaggerating, all right? So I said, all right, well, if I'm going to be up here for a while, I normally stand when I work. There are some actors that sit down, I stand, okay? And they say, what do you do? I said, I'm a stand-up guy, you know? But I do stand up, you know? Yeah, but I'm, right? I'll be here all week, 2 shows on Thursday, right? Where the bartender goes, no, not after that joke, you won't be, you know? But they weren't exaggerating. I said, well, I'll have a little bench, so I did my first cue, which was something like, no, they will not. Sat down, and in the booth, I can see them going. And it goes on and on and on, and they're practically getting into fist fights in there and stuff like that. It wasn't that bad, but I was wondering what could no, they will not entail. Why would it create such a problem? And then, of all things, I'd finish the cue, they go, okay, that was great, let's move on to the next one. What the heck were you talking about all that time?
Just for one line?
Yeah, I mean, they would actually, and I thought, all right. Now, I mean, they were paying me 2.5 times scale, okay? That's good money. So y'all talk all you want, you know? And I did 4 sessions, too, so it was great. And it's something that I and a typical ADR director would have had slapped out in less than an hour. And we did 4 sessions. Like I say, if you're going to pay me, remember? If they want to take that long, they want to spend that much time, they want to argue that much, call somebody in Japan, call somebody in New York, call somebody in Timbuktu. That's perfectly fine with me. Keep the session going, more sessions, more money. Okay, you know, so. Okay, my actors. Okay, Sarah, go ahead and have a seat in the front. You'll be second. Oh, gentlemanly of you. What's your first name?
I'm Dan.
Dan. I know we've met before. You look very, very
I was
familiar.
here like a couple.
Oh, okay,
years
all right.
ago, I think.
Okay, this is Dan. Are we live? Okay,
Yes.
very good.
Oh, cool.
Okay, Dan, how do we hold the copy?
How do we hold what?
How do you hold the copy?
Like so.
Like that, or closer. If your eyes are like mine, like you get one of those, selfie things.
Oh.
And hold it like 40 feet
Yeah, that
away.
would be nice. Oh.
I go to restaurants. I could read this menu if my arms were longer. So, okay, so up like that in front of the
Like
mic.
that? Okay.
Do not stand like that. That's bad for your voice.
Which one?
You want to go ahead and keep your feet nice, even.
Oh, yeah.
Shoulder width at the most, but you want to be like that. Okay.
Right.
All right. So let's have you just say Dan.
Dan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they say slate, normally you would say Paul St. Peter, or Paul St. Peter reading for James, or whatever the thing might be. But other times they'll say your first name, you go, Dan. And then they'll do it, and they go, this is Dan reading for blah, 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 take one, Dan, blah, 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 take two, etc. It depends, but it's called a slate, and they want all sorts of different things. I do it so automatically, I just say, this is Paul St. Peter reading for. All right,
Okay.
so this is Dan reading for When I Was 1 and 20 by Alfred Edward Houseman. And 3, 2, 1.
When I was 1 and 20, I heard a wise man say, give a pound in crowns and guineas, but not your heart away. Give pearls away and rubies, but keep your fancy free. But I was 1 and 20, no use to talk to me. When I was 1 and 20, I heard him say again, the heart is out of the bosom, is never given in vain. 'Tis paid with sighs aplenty and sold for endless rue. I am 2 and 20, oh, 'tis true, 'tis true.
Okay. Okay, we're going to do this again, but no dialect.
No dialect, okay.
Yeah, no
Just
dialect.
Straightforward.
It is a British thing, but
Right. Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, well, that's okay. Actually, I didn't say not do it. And
Okay.
sometimes when you go and do it, like when I did the narrator for Soul Calibur 5, and Soul Calibur 6 is coming out, by the way, and I'm the narrator again. I did it 2 ways.
I can
They
see
asked
that.
for 2 ways, and I did it those 2 ways, and I said, may I try it a different way? They said, go ahead. And so I did it with the Zemnis voice, and that's the one they picked, okay? So sometimes your first choice or your instinct, which was a good one because this is a British piece, right? But do it straight, keep the same rhymes I was talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Dan for When I Was 1 and 20, and we are going on take 2. Quiet in the house, please. We are recording, and 3, 2, 1.
When I was 1 and 20, I heard a wise man say, give a pound in crowns and guineas, but not your heart away. Give pearls away and rubies, but keep your fancy free. I was 1 and 20, no use to talk to me. When I was 1 and 20, I heard him say again, the heart is out of the bosom, is never given in vain. 'Tis paid with sighs aplenty, and sold for endless rue. I am 2 and 20, and oh, 'tis true, 'tis true.
Okay.
It's harder not to do it.
I'm sorry?
It's harder not to do it because, like, with the words,
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes it's slanted that way. And if they ask you to do it that way, they would not have you audition with a classical British poet like that, okay? They always give you the stuff that they're going to do. But that, in fact, was better because it was more relaxed, right? Okay. Pacing? Too fast. Too fast, yeah.
Okay.
Relaxed voice?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, that's a comfortable piece for you.
I haven't had eyes on me for a while, so it's,
Oh,
you know,
that's
I haven't
okay,
been on
too.
stage for a few years.
I know that feeling too because what I do is very anonymous. They meet me and they go, oh, you're Paul St. Peter. Okay. You get used to that too. It's kind of rough. But this is actually a good piece for you and your age.
Oh, okay.
In fact, this is about somebody who's 21 years old. I am 1 and 20.
so
He talks
generous.
about falling in love and how bad everything got. And he said, now I'm 2 and 20, and God, have I learned some lessons, So I would slow it down a little bit, all right? A fast-paced poem is only fast-paced for a reason, if it's action and stuff like that. But good job, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Okay, Sarah? Notice that he gave me the copy back. Very good. This stuff is usually copyrighted, and they do not want you. Yeah. And often because you're on an NDA, and the story I had where I did the Naruto game 1 week, and I had 2 lines, and that was it. I got paid for a full day of scale. I wasn't even 40 seconds in front of the microphone. They called me back the next week for an Naruto video game, and I said, well, it can't be for retakes. I had 2 lines, right? I came in, different script for a different platform from a different company. See why they want to keep quiet and secret from each other? I keep my mouth shut about this stuff anyway. But I came in, I said, oh, 5 lines this time. Oh, my God, you know. And same thing, a full day's pay. I said, you guys call me anytime with this kind of stuff, you know. Okay, so this is Sarah reading Brutus from Julius Caesar. And hold your copy like that. That's right. And however it's comfortable for you, go ahead and just say your name.
Sarah.
Okay. Do we have a level? Is that okay? It's a nice room, too. We're not too far away. Most of the time, they're tiny, and they've got this phenomenal recording equipment, so it's never a problem to worry about it. We need to think of microphone technique here. Wherever you're working, that's where you need to work effectively. Okay, this is Sarah for Brutus from Julius Caesar. And recording, quiet in the house, please. 3, 2, 1.
Our course will seem too bloody, Caius Cassius, to cut the head off and then hack the limbs, like wrath and death and envy afterwards, for Antony is but a limb of Caesar. Let us be sacrifices, but not butchers, Caius. We all stand up against the spirit of Caesar, and in the spirit of men there is no blood. Oh, that we then could come by Caesar's spirit, and could not dismember Caesar. But alas, Caesar must bleed for it. And gentle friends, let us kill him boldly, but not wrathfully. Let's carve him as a dish fit for the gods, not hew him as a carcass fit for hounds. We shall be called purgers, not murderers. And for our Mark Antony, think not of him, for he can do no more than Caesar's arm when Caesar's head is off.
Okay, pacing? Yeah, she did not go too fast, which is one of the mistakes most actors make. Oh my God, I got to get up there with energy, and you know. And in Shakespeare, we call it machine gunning the lines. Okay, the point of Shakespeare is not to get up there and say them as fast as you can because there's so many words. Okay, use the words fast, slow, medium. Vocal quality. Clearly, she's not Brutus. Okay. Actually, Sarah does have a very good, I was telling you earlier, you do have a good range of voice, okay? The kind I would think more of a serious and a professional person if I put you on camera, for instance, okay? As a voiceover person, I would have you play the adult female, okay? Pronunciations? Extremely difficult material, by the way. Shakespeare's as tough as it gets. I call him the great humbler. Doesn't matter how good I get at anything. As soon as I start working on Shakespeare, I go like, I don't know anything. This is terrible, you know. But pretty good, okay? Now, this is difficult material because people don't normally pick this one for an audition. It's one of the reasons I do it. I have it memorized and I use it if I ever do a Shakespearean audition. Because the directors and the producers have never heard it before, unless they've seen the play. But it's not a popular audition piece, so when I get up there, they go, oh my God, he's doing something different. Wow, they woke up, you know. Instead of hearing the same thing from Romeo and Juliet each time, you know. Or, you know, Petruchio, Taming of the Shrew, everybody goes in with that one. Sweet Kate, Bonnie Kate, you know. Everybody, at this point, they're like, oh, another one, you know. Okay, let's try that again. Slow it down a little bit and work your range a little bit more. Think in terms of a musical scale being this much. These are all the lines. Give me more notes in different places. These are referred to as dynamics. Make it more vocally dynamic. With pitch, with volume, all these things, use all those tricks. Not just pitch, but dynamics, dynamism. To be dynamic with something is to give it all sorts of different levels. Okay, and this is Sarah for Brutus, take 2. We're recording. Quiet in the house, please. 3, 2, 1.
Our course will seem too bloody, Caius Cassius, to cut the head off and then hack the limbs, like wrath and death and envy afterwards, for Antony is but a limb of Caesar. Let us be sacrifices, but not butchers, Caius. We all stand up against the spirit of Caesar, and in the spirit of men there is no blood. Oh, that we then could come by Caesar's spirit, and not dismember Caesar. But alas, Caesar must bleed for it. And gentle friends, let's kill him boldly, but not wrathfully. Let's carve him as a dish fit for the gods, not hew him as a carcass fit for hounds. We shall be called purgers, not murderers. And for Mark Antony, think not of him, for he can do no more than Caesar's arm when Caesar's head is off.
Now, do you see how she made some dynamic choices? As for Mark Antony, near the beginning when she first said his name, there was a pause, and you're going, what about him? That's how you keep the listener going. One of my directors referred to it as vocal volleyball. Volleyball's pretty boring when the ball's on the ground, isn't it? You're only interested when it's in the air, and that's what you do. You play vocal volleyball with your voice. So you maintain, and you suspend, and you pause, and you're all waiting for what's next. When is it going to be over? That's when you listen. Nice choices with pauses, yes? That's an element of making it more dynamic. Was her pace better? There were places where she actually slowed down, almost to the point where a director would say that was too slow, but no, because sometimes what the director says to you is his interpretation. It's not something you did wrong, it was your choice. That was excellent, thank you. Well done. Thank you, Sarah. I choose very, very difficult things like this to let people know that when you are up in front of the microphone, they may hand you something that is incredibly difficult. You're unfamiliar with it, just be ready. You have to have that confidence in yourself, and you've got to have the training, okay? Now, we have about 2 minutes left, so again, if anybody has more questions, I want to give you a chance to Q&A, because I'm not doing a panel this time where you're just getting to talk to me this year, you know, which is boring anyway. That's why we don't do it anymore. Oh, my God, did I say that? Yes? Once in a while, if I need help, for instance, from someone, I will put on a dialect because they're much more likely to help a foreigner. They think, of course he doesn't know, you know. I say, if you don't mind at all, I'm trying to find Vineland Avenue. Is it east or west of here? You know, they go, oh, that's Englishman. Yeah, well, of course. It's over here. How would you know? Drive away going. I used to live right by Vineland Avenue in North Hollywood. Anyway, I really do know, but sometimes I will ask a question like that. It makes a difference. Yes, Sarah.
When you were saying, when a director, when you were doing like the slight pain, moderate pain, like when they were saying like give it 20% less, like, what do you mean by that?
It's what they mean by that is what counts. Because remember, what they want is when they say I want 20% less, they want you to do less. Now, when they use 20%, it's arbitrary. They have no freaking idea what 20% less of my thing. And you have to remember that when you go in. You are directed by people that have never done voiceover. You're directed by people that have never written anything. They've never acted, and that's the person the client sends. Well, he's like well, isn't he in accounting? We need somebody there. So they'll send whoever's available, and there's some accountant sitting there going, no, 20%. Yeah, I can give you 20%. How's that? So you do run into that. What you need to do is try to figure out what they want. If they said less, think less. Okay, that's the important thing. They have no idea what your 20% might be anyway. You know. But you need to be ready to interpret that, and you need to work with people that maybe don't know how to express themselves in your terms. I'm much more forgiving of someone like that. When somebody who doesn't know anything about what I do walks in and thinks they can tell me how to do it, or think they know better than me and the director, the writer, and everybody like that, I don't have much patience with them, but you know what? There we are. That's when it's irritating, you know, but you have to. Maybe one more? Sir. Thank you. Next. No, I'm kidding.
Are there any certain techniques that you use to achieve a certain voice?
For me, the way I do them is I talked about where I layer them. I break the voices down and I name them. Okay. You know, if I go in and I'm going to use the voice for Zemnis, on the copy I write Zemnis on the top. It's that easy. But in terms of the techniques, yes, I remember how I hold the jaw. I remember that some characters have more of a brighter placement like this, okay? So I put smiley on the top of the copy. As I'd say, once in a while I get to use my own voice, so when I audition and I use my own voice on the copy, I'll write me, you know. And I have to do that because my record, I think, was 11 different voices for one audition. I had to record these at home, send the MP3s off, okay? So you better give yourself some clues, so that is a technical way to do that. Write the name of the character on there. Like, I've got a character by the name of Jubal Earthquake. He's a Southerner, and his voice is shaking all the time. So a good Southern name is Jubal. And he's an earthquake. That's Jubal Earthquake, you know. So if I'm going to, I've never gotten to use that voice professionally, unfortunately, but if I'm going to do that, I will write Jubal Earthquake on the top. You know? So there are, you know, visual ways to do that, little techniques that I use. One more if I'm not going to get kicked out of the room. Anybody after me? Okay, a little bit. Okay. Yes?
Do you feel in the voice acting industry, is there animosity against just traditional film actors being cast for voice-only roles as opposed to for established voice actors?
When they suck, yes. and believe me, I will put that to you in a very simple way. I try to use this example. In this community, you guys, you know who I am, okay? I am a celebrity when I go to a convention. I'm a celebrity when people read about me on Facebook because of the projects I do, all right? When I leave here and I go to the airport, I'm anonymous again, all right? I use this example, Puss in Boots, okay? I love Antonio Banderas, and I think he did a great job, okay? So I have no complaints about that. Now, think about this for a moment from the business end of it, okay? You are a producer. You go into a studio, and you say, I've got this anime project, it's great, it's called Puss in Boots, and we have actors, blah, 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 and I have two possible actors for you for the lead role. I've got Antonio Banderas, and I got Paul St. Peter. Who do you think they heard of, right? And again, if the celebrity voiceover person is good, I have no problem with them, okay? But when they suck, and you guys know it, you guys will see an anime or they come in for a game and they do a bad job, you guys know it immediately. You are among the most discerning people we deal with because you play the games. You're the ones with the headphones on, okay? So people don't know that I do the voice of Zemnis because I don't sound like Zemnis when I'm talking. I don't walk around the house like this either. What am I going to eat today? I think I'll barbecue chicken, you know. Well, exactly right, yeah. But see, that normally what happens is they're going to look at the celebrity voice in terms of marketing. And again, I have no quarrel with that. We're not in this to give our work away and go broke, okay? We're in this to make money too. I loved being the creative artist. I love being there and making something that you guys love. I like the fact that people walk up to me at my autograph table and look at my pictures and say, this was my childhood, okay? That's priceless to me. I don't put money on that, okay? I make money doing it. So we're businessmen, we're actors, we're artists, all right? So I understand when the producer has to look at it from a dollar and cent point of view. But if they give a voice in a thing to a celebrity and they're lousy at it, they're there because their name is good. Like I said earlier, 160,000 members of my union, only a few hundred of us can do this effectively. Bring in somebody unknown who will do a good job. If you bring in a celebrity and they do a crappy job with that, like I say, if they suck, I have a problem with it, a big problem. They don't ask me anyway, I have no say in the matter, okay? But since you asked, that's how it feels. If they suck, I have a big problem with it. So do all of us. We'll get together and we play poker or, you know, go to Super Bowl parties and smoke cigars and do all the stuff we do, and we'll talk about this stuff. And we'll say, God, that guy was awful. Why did they give him the part? Well, his name. Probably sold some tickets, more than I would have. That's why it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to Stage Actor to Voice Actor. Have a great rest of the con. Hit the vendor's room, absolutely, and you tabletop gamers, go for it. There's a ton of great stuff. Even Uncle Wiggly. They have Uncle Wiggly in there, man. I had that game, yeah. Two guys earlier, I played a game from the 60s, and I said, yeah, Uncle Wiggily, I played it. Yeah, okay, yeah, you were there.